You're listening to the Unwritable Rant podcast with your host, author, and occasional misanthrope, Juliette Miranda. Go to theunwritablerant.com and you can subscribe on iTunes or connect with the show on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey there, y'all. It's Juliette Miranda, and welcome to episode number 75 of the Unwritable Rant podcast. Y'all, I have a new favorite bourbon. I am itching to tell y'all about it, so please do not make me drink alone. You know what to do. Find yourself something tasty, pour it in a glass, and raise it up right now, and let's say cheers. Oh, all right. Bourbon. Today, I am drinking Russell's Reserve Single Barrel Bourbon, and it is outstanding. I was a huge fan of the Russell's Reserve 10-year for a long time and happened upon this one in my local liquor store, picked it up, and I am blown away. For starters, it is a beautiful color. I just have to say that right off the bat. It's this really deep amber color, very pretty, and it almost tastes like it looks. Immediately, it is silky and smooth. Now, it's 110 proof, so you would think it's going to have a lot of burn to it, but it is so smooth you can drink this without any water at all. In fact, it almost reminds me a little bit of a cognac, in that it has this really rich flavor to it and a touch of sweetness at the end. Now me, I taste cherry, maybe a little bit of apricot, definitely vanilla, and a whole lot of spice. And now I'm going to say something that might be shocking. I think it's better than Booker's. I used to tell everybody on the planet that if you want to order something at the bar that's going to make you look like a whiskey connoisseur and not break the bank, get Booker's. It's delicious and strong and potent, but Russell's Reserve Single Barrel blows it away, and it's at a better price point. So if you were a fan of a very creamy, spicy sort of bourbon like I am, this is the one for you. Suck it down just like I'm going to, folks, because it is delicious. All right, I think I'm ready to do this show now. So my guy and I took another one of our infamous road trips not too long ago, and I'm going to be frank, I was not real excited about this one from the start. You see, we were driving north to check out a friend's cover band. And as I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of cover bands. Believe me, I get it, they have a place in the music scene. And there are some really great cover bands out there. I just don't think they're in Chicago. Chicago is overrun with cover bands, and it's gotten to the point where my guy and I have made a sort of checklist, if you will, to determine whether or not a cover band is worth our time. And the first item on that list is the band's promo photo. If it shows those guys standing on railroad tracks, leaning against a brick wall, or anywhere in or around a pickup truck, we will immediately dismiss them. And in that same vein, if anybody in the band ever utters the phrase, "We're working on a label deal," we will immediately dismiss them too. And finally, if any of their merchandise includes a pair of women's panties with the band's faces plastered on the front, again, they're out. I know this might sound a little bit harsh, but come on. Just because you are playing other people's music does not excuse you from creativity. Also, it's not the 80s. Now, fortunately, our friend's band passed our little checklist test, but I still wasn't all that enthralled to see them because it meant that we were going to have to go to a bar that is on the Illinois-Wisconsin state line. I don't know if you've been to any one of these border towns that run the length of the Illinois-Wisconsin border, but I can tell you right now that winter is not their season. In fact, I don't think there is a good season for any of these towns. No offense, but they consist mainly of seedy-looking gas stations, dirty motels, a couple of crappy Indian casinos, and a whole lot of shitholes. The last time we went to this particular area, it was to see a different cover band, and we wound up in a shithole where, no lie, for 30 minutes, I watched a guy systematically pick 3 ticks out of his head with a ballpoint pen and deposit them into the empty PBR bottle in front of him. That, my friends, is a shithole. So the entire ride up to see our friend's band, I am bitching up a storm to my guy. I am whining, I am complaining, and I am being generally disagreeable. But when I am wrong, I will admit it, because when we pulled up to that club, I knew immediately that it was not a shithole. It was a dive. And there is a very distinct difference. A dive has character. And this particular one, I kind of suspect once upon a time was somebody's home. Because we walk in and it's 2 levels. The top floor is for the band, and thankfully they had an actual stage for the band, because there is nothing more disconcerting than staring at a band eye level while they play. But what was truly awesome was the ground floor with the bar. Now, admittedly, they did not have much of a selection. I think it pretty much consisted of well liquor, deep-fried cheese curds, and old style. But that was all right, because what it lacked in booze selection, it more than made up for in entertainment. Now, in the way back, there was, of course, the pool table and dartboard. There was a line of very dirty-looking slot machines. But then, on the other side of the bar, I saw what can only be described as the holy grail of bar entertainment. They had a lobster game. Now, I've heard tales of these things before, and I thought they were pretty much bar urban legends. But walking up to it, I saw it was the most magnificent thing I had ever encountered. And if you're not familiar with the lobster game, let me break it down for you. It is essentially like one of the claw games that you find at carnivals and arcades, where a metal claw will descend from the top of the machine, only instead of trying to pick up a plushy toy or a carton of cigarettes, you are instead trying to land yourself a live lobster. Oh, y'all, I cannot tell you how much this just tickled my sense of the absurd. And after a couple of rounds of bad bourbon, I was ready to play that thing. I demanded my guy give me $20, ran up to it, and spent a good 20 minutes trying to fish myself out a lobster. And there was one guy in particular, this snappy little fucker who kept evading my claw. Clearly, he's seen that thing descend from the top one too many times. Now, I know some of y'all are probably thinking, oh, Juliette, that's just so mean and so cruel to lobsters. And you know what? You're probably right. I don't care. It was hysterical. Now, of course, I went through another $20 playing that thing before my guy had to pry me away. He had some ridiculous notion that we weren't there to fish for lobsters, but instead to see some cover band. Fine. We made our way back upstairs, sat down, and of course the band is not on time. No band is ever on time because they are fundamentally incapable of giving you a correct time to go see them. I tend to refer to it as musician time. It's usually plus or minus 1 hour. And in this case, the band was definitely an hour late. But when they finally took the stage, they were fine. They were good. I can't really say anything good or bad about them, and no offense to my friend, he knows exactly where I'm coming from. I'm just not into the whole Summer of '69, Jesse's Girl, classic 80s hits, dancing around pretending like it's the real band thing. So by their second set, I'm starting to get a little bit fidgety. You know, there's no amount of alcohol in the world that's going to make a Bruno Mars and Justin Timberlake mashup sound entertaining to me. And my guy looks over and he sees that there is a small pile of skin sitting in front of me. Because I have a truly horrible habit. When I get bored or annoyed or fidgety, I pick at my cuticles. I know, it's horrible, it's foul, it's disgusting. It's just something I do. I have to clean the keyboard of my computer out every couple of weeks because if I don't, it starts to look like Ed Gain has been sitting there. So my guy takes in the pile of skin in front of me, my twitchy sort of look, and he buys me another bourbon, hands me $20 and says, why don't you go play the lobster game for a while? And I was all, ooh, lobsters, yay! And I ran back down to the ground level. Again, I ran out of that $20 real quick because those lobsters are hard to catch. They're constantly moving around, and that little snappy fucker was just so quick. Fortunately, I had my ATM card, so another couple of rounds later, I'm down to my last $2, and what do you know? The stars align. My claw descends from the top of the tank down and perfectly lands that snappy lobster right around the midsection and lifts him up like an angel. Now, my guy is on the top floor listening to the band, so he can't hear when the entire ground floor of the bar busts out into an amazing round of applause for me. And you can see the waitstaff all kind of looking at each other thinking, I thought that machine was rigged. I don't know if anybody had ever actually successfully caught a lobster, but it was a pretty big deal. So one of the girls comes over and she pulls him out of the tank and puts him on a big platter for me. Now this leaves me with some conflicting emotions. On one hand, I have a lobster. And on the other, I had a lobster. What was I going to do with a live lobster? I was pretty confident that my guy was not going to allow me to take Snappy home and make him into a pet. And now the waitress is standing there looking at me and she's like, we can cook him up for you. But I wanted something better for Snappy before he wound up as somebody's dinner. He had fought so hard and I had worked so diligently to catch him that I knew there had to be something special for him. And then it dawned on me exactly what to do with him. I picked Snappy up off of that tray, him waving his claws around trying to take my eyes out, and I start walking upstairs with him, much to the confused look of the waitress and everybody on the ground floor. Now it is packed upstairs. Dozens and dozens of drunken, dancey people listening to bad 80s music from a semi-decent cover band. And then there's me standing at the threshold of it all. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip here, y'all. If you ever want to quickly and efficiently make your way through a very crowded room, just carry a live lobster. It will part like the Red Sea. Well, I marched right through that crowd with Snappy in front of him waving his claws around like a maniac, and I walked straight up to the front of the stage. And that's where I found what I was looking for, the tip bucket. It is customary when a band does a performance that you find a way to acknowledge them in some way. Some people will buy them a round of drinks, other people will deposit a couple of dollars in that tip bucket. But me, I tipped them a lobster. I placed good old Snappy in that bucket as if it was the most natural thing to do in the world. And then I turn around and meet eyes with my guy who is sitting at the table and shaking his head and wondering why in the hell he always thinks it's an okay idea to leave me alone for a couple of minutes. Well, I knew that was my cue, so he and I got up and made our way out of the bar for the night. Now, we later heard back from the band who told us that Snappy had made a valiant attempt to climb his way out of that bucket, but ultimately he met his great reward in a pot of boiling water. Turns out Snappy was a little bit chewy, and I can't say that surprises me too much considering he'd probably been living in that tank for a very long time. But it still made me smile because I knew one thing. Snappy the lobster was probably the best tip that band got all night long. And now, if you will excuse me, I'm going to raise up my glass of bourbon here and I'm going to drink to Snappy the lobster. You put up a good fight, buddy. Cheers. Oh, bourbon is so good. So good. I know in that story there, I was a little harsh on cover bands. And I have absolutely no right to be, because I have no musical skills whatsoever. I suck at piano, I cannot keep rhythm to save my life, and I am a terrible singer. But does that stop me from doing karaoke when the opportunity arises? Hell no. I adore karaoke, and it is my personal belief that karaoke exists for optimistic assholes like me who want to foist ourselves on the public knowing full well we cannot sing but still have rock star delusions. I don't get the opportunity to sing karaoke very often, but when I do, it is definitely an event. The last time I was singing karaoke was actually at a bar in Nashville. We have a favorite karaoke bar whenever we head on out to Nashville, and we go there at very specific times of the evening. Because if you know anything about Nashville, you'll know that Lower Broadway at about 8 o'clock p.m. becomes absolutely insufferable. Every 10 feet or so, there's going to be one of those obnoxious pedal taverns blocking traffic in the road. There will be no fewer than 100 different bridal shower parties, clogging up the sidewalks and blowing penis whistles and howling at the moon. And this is also the precise time when every single bar on Lower Broadway stops playing country music. It's true. They start playing crowd pleasers. If you stop just for a couple of minutes and listen, you will hear 3 different versions of Journey's Don't Stop Believin' at any point in time during the night. And if it's not that song, it's some weird rocked up version of Wagon Wheel. So it is at this particular juncture of the evening, when my guy and I have been drinking since about 10 o'clock in the morning, that we make our way into our favorite karaoke bar. And it is always perfect because It's mostly filled with people about our age who've had enough of the mayhem of the Strip and want to get away from it all. So it's definitely not packed in there. There's usually a very laid-back atmosphere, and it is never hard to get on stage to sing a couple of songs. And this is immediately what I start doing. My first song of the night is a Miranda Lambert song. It's her version of Little Red Wagon. And I choose this specifically because it lulls people into thinking I'm not a terrible singer. Most of the song is spoken, so it's very easy for me to sound decent. But this time around, about halfway through my song, I had a heckler. In the way back, some dickhead wearing a fedora started calling out, "You suck, get off the stage." This initially hurt my feelings, but then it just pissed me off. Because this is a karaoke bar. You're supposed to suck. A little bit of perspective, please. And also, the guy was wearing a fedora. Wearing a fedora in Nashville is the equivalent of wearing flip-flops while riding a Harley. You just don't do it. Plus, he had that whole stupid hipster look going on with, the skinny jeans and, the facial hair and all of that. And he just looked like a douchebag. So I walk off the stage to a smattering of applause and his boos from the way back. Now, my guy has been giving Fedora Guy the evil eye for a while. But he turns and faces me and says, "Don't worry about it, baby. You were great." Pats me on the head, gives me more bourbon, placates me a little bit so that I don't lose my shit. And it works for a while. More people go on, more people sing. They're all mediocre at best. And Heckler Guy, he's a little subdued, but he's still kind of agitated and still kind of shouting out random things to people on stage. Well, I have another go at it, climb up on stage, and as I do, Fedora Guy yells out, "Not you again." And when he does this, my guy turns around and says, "Hey, buddy, lay off, huh?" Now this time around, I launch into another Miranda Lambert song. I'm doing Mama's Broken Heart, which was probably not the best call. And later, my guy told me it was something of a miraculous performance because somehow I managed to sing a half beat slow while tapping my foot a half beat too fast. I admit it was not my best performance. And Heckler Guy had a field day with me. He was brutal. But I'm a big girl. I can suck up heckling. So when I finish the song, I take a cute little curtsy and walk off the stage and sit back down with my guy, who, again, pats me on the head and says, "You're so cute." Notice he didn't say you were great, of course. So a couple more rounds of bourbon are had. I'm feeling no pain now. And I get the itch to get back on stage. And I look at my guy and he goes, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I'm like, "Yes, I want to sing. I must sing. I am meant to sing, my love." And I said, "How about you get on stage with me and we do a duet?" I can see every single muscle in his body just sinking down into the chair. But my guy supports me no matter what. And he looks at me and he says, "All right, what do you want to sing?" And I knew. Oh, I knew what I wanted to sing with my guy. Only the greatest country duet ever written. Islands in the Stream with Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers. And he raises his eyebrows when I said it because he knows how much I love this song. We're constantly singing the song together in the car. When we're on the driveway drinking, we're singing the song. But it is not an easy song. And he knows I'm not Dolly Parton, no matter how much I like to pretend I am when we're in Nashville. So he goes, "Wouldn't you rather sing something from, I don't know, Grease, maybe?" "Nope, Dolly and Kenny." And my loving man conceded and said, "All right, let's do this." Now he's probably thinking that as the actual musician in the relationship, he can carry the song. That when I start to warble off key, he can kind of cover it up a little bit and make me look better than I am. But of course, the second I step back out onto that stage, Fedora Guy in the back wakes up and says, "Oh, come on, you mean you haven't put a muzzle on that bitch yet?" Well, my guy hears that, and nobody disses his woman in public like that. But he is also a gentleman, and he looks at the guy and says, "That's enough." The DJ hears the guy and says, "All right, everybody gets a chance to sing, let's simmer down." And the song starts up, and we begin singing, and it's not terrible. I don't entirely suck, but mostly because my guy is doing his best to be Kenny Rogers to my semi-slow-witted and drunken Dolly Parton. And then we come to the chorus, and Fedora Guy in the back yells out, "My cat in heat sounds better than you do." And that is when my guy looks out at him, and my guy is very quick-witted. And he'd had enough of Fedora Guy, so he looks at him and he yells out into the microphone, while I'm singing, "Islands in the stream, that is what we are." He's yelling out, "Is your fedora hiding a man bun?" And now, all of a sudden, instead of doing a duet at karaoke, I am in the middle of a roast. Fedora Guy yells out some other insult, and I'm all, "No one in between, how can we be wrong?" And then my guy yells out, "If you're here, who's making lattes at Starbucks?" And now I'm singing "Sail Away With Me" to another word, and Fedora Guy yells out some other horrible insult, and my guy yells out, "Go fuck yourself with your alpaca hair condom." And with that, like a boss, turns to me and we finish out the song singing, "And we rely on each other, oh, oh, from one lover to another, oh, oh." And the whole room burst into cheers. It was beautiful. Greatest moment I've ever had on stage my entire life, all thanks to my loving man. We start stepping off the stage then, and the DJ kind of pulls us aside and says, "Hey guys, maybe that song should be your grand finale for the night." I may not be the world's greatest singer, and sometimes I may not know when to shut up, but no matter what, my guy always helps me hit my notes. And with that, I am raising up my bourbon right now, and I'm drinking to my guy. Oh, all right. It's going to be a good night with me in this Russell's Reserve, I can tell you that much. So that means I think I'm going to be taking my leave right now, but I do have something special to tell you about. There is video of me doing karaoke. There is video of that fateful night in Nashville. And if you want to see it, there's only one way to do it. Head on over to my website, theunwritablерant.com. The very first thing you're going to see is a shiny little box that says, "Subscribe to The Unwritable Rant." And when you do that, you will receive weekly updates about the podcast, including video footage and all sorts of other goodies. And the very first video we're going to be sending out to subscribers is me singing karaoke. Now you know you want to see this. My producer seems to think this is a good idea. I'm a little bit skeptical, but we'll see. In the meantime, I will chat with y'all again next Sunday. Hope you have a great week. Cheers, y'all.
Girl, you as pretty as a Sunday morning, standing on the corner at Carondelet. What you say we make our way up to Bourbon, couple hurricanes and a hand grenade, and get blown away and let the chips fall where they may. If it's all the same, what you say, bon ton relay. Hey, pretty mama, I can smell the gumbo, sweet as taste of honeysuckle on my lips. Good God Almighty, I can hear the trombone, every heart ought to beat to a rhythm like this. Come a little closer, honey, let me hold you. Nothing tastes better than a bourbon kiss. You can be the flower on my